Okay, in this video, we are going to be taking a look at a couple different things. So one, an approach to keyword research, and then two, what are some actual tools that you can use? So the specific question is, what keyword research and optimization tools would you recommend for somebody trying to DIY a product or service launch? Now, some of these things, yes, will be actual tools. You can see a little bit of a preview up here of what I'll be showing you, but I do want to start with some fundamentals first. And actually, one of my favorite places to go is just Google itself. Right? So if you want to put yourself in the searcher's shoes, act like them, try to think about what they might be searching for, right? So let's fire up, I'm going to do an incognito window here just so that you don't have to deal with all my past searches here and, stuff that you get with a logged in state on Google. So let's pretend I'm a consulting firm, and one thing I offer is brand strategy. So I might go here and type in brand strategy and see, okay, here are some things that we might be thinking about, right? Brand strategy consulting, brand strategy agencies. When I see something like that, I'm thinking about what words am I using to talk about my company? This is a pretty classic example that I encounter a lot, right? Am I a consultancy? Am I an agency? Am I a firm? This really applies more on the service side of the question, but it could be a similar thing for products, right? Like what types of words are we actually wanting to use for those? So let's say I decide, okay, I'm interested in moving forward with, let's see what comes up for brand strategy consulting. That feels like the word we've been using. What I like to see then is, one, you can see who is showing up in the results, but also you have people also ask. Right? So you can get a sense of what are things that people are searching for. And I like to use these to think about different on-page content throughout your site. This could be in more of an about page. It could be used as an idea to create blog posts or insights or resources, whatever you might call those. That's pretty useful. Also, of late, there's been a bigger emphasis in Google search results for discussions and forums, so a lot of Reddit and things like that. Other structured results here is what these types of things are called, of things to know. And then once you get to the bottom, we have people also search for. So what I suggest here is just keep going and going and going down this rabbit trail and just see what's coming up. What words are out there? And you can get a sense of how many search results are here and how interested people are. So this isn't going to give you too much quantitative data, of course, in terms of how many people are searching for something, but it can at least help you start thinking about what words you should be using on your website. So that's the first area. The next area would be a couple free tools, and we're still staying in Google world. Now, I want to emphasize that SEO and organic search is so much more, of course, than Google, and everything is changing, right, with AI. Actually, just today, ChatGPT announced that they'll be coming out with SearchGPT, things like that. We have to think about voice and all of those other things, but we're using some of these tools that are at our disposal from Google as kind of a free way to explore things. So Keyword Planner is one of those things, which is actually more for paid ads. And then there's Search Trends. Now, when I say it's more for paid ads, I don't mean you can't use it organically. I mean, that's why it exists. So you will need a Google Ads account. But when you go in here, you can use it to discover new keywords and really get a sense of search volume and forecasts. And so if I go in here and maybe I want to type in, again, brand consulting or brand consultancy and get started, it's going to start giving you different information about these words, right? You can see the average number of monthly searches, different changes, and data like that. So this is a really helpful tool. And even though it's designed for paid, it is useful and organic as well. Then the other thing, you can see a past search I was just testing out here. Let's go here and go brand consulting. This tool that I have here is Google Trends, which you may be familiar with. What it's going to show you is interest over time in different topics. So one thing to pay attention to, make sure you use these tooltips to make sure you're understanding what these data points actually mean. Because when you're looking at this graph, it's showing you interest relative to all time, or at least in this time frame here. What's nice about this, you can compare different terms to see if something is more popular now than maybe it was before, or maybe certain words aren't really being used as much. I think of this especially with things like user-centric design or user centricity or things like that, where I know they had a big peak probably a while ago. That's still very relevant, but people start using other words. Maybe they're using human-centered design instead. There's different words that kind of dance around some of the same topics, and you would want to use something like this to help you understand maybe what would be useful. You can also see related queries for which ones are rising and most popular. So strategic brand consulting, extra popular right now. You can also see overall what are the top related queries. So in this case, it's just marketing consulting, brand strategy, business consulting. What is consulting, brand consulting companies, other topics. So these two tools are definitely things I would recommend that you use. They are completely free. You are still kind of in the Google sphere, so we'll get beyond that in a minute, but I definitely recommend these. So Keyword Planner and Google Search Trends. Next, I want to think a little bit more broadly, right? So I mentioned this earlier where, yes, we're thinking about Google, but we want to think a bigger picture at this point. This gives us a chance to think a little bit more strategically, where we want to use the topic and audience kind of focus to really try to get a better sense of the landscape. So for this, there are two tools that I like to use on occasion. There's one that's called SparkToro. So a little bit of a history lesson. So this was one of the founders is Rand Fishkin, and he was one of the founders of Moz, if you're familiar with that tool. There's a bunch of stuff on that online. I'm not going to get into that, but why I mention that is that he comes from a place of kind of an SEO background, yes, and that's what people know him for. He's a leading expert in the area, but I like the holistic approach that he takes with this, and he's really focused on audience intent. And so if I go here and I type in brand strategy, let's see what comes up. So it's starting to show you information about different websites that are out there for brand strategy. It's going to show you searches for particular keywords. It starts getting into demographics as well. So this is a paid tool. You'll see that I've used one of 5 queries for the month, but it can get you started here. So there you go. Here we go. So consulting brand strategy, brand consultancies. There's a bunch of information that you can get in here, and then really dive into more of the demographic info and thinking about people. So this is a good way to explore a little bit beyond just Google search results or thinking in the context of Google. And then another example would be Answer the Public. So tool from Neil Patel. Now I think maybe it was acquired by him from another place, but that's neither here nor there. So the idea here, let's go in here and let's type in, I know I'm flipping back and forth between brand strategy and brand consulting, but let's do brand strategy for this one. And we'll search. What's very cool about this is that there's a couple different types of visualizations here. Let's wait for it to load. A little bit slow. There we go. So you can start to see questions that people are asking here. And so, of course, this is kind of along the lines of that Google people also ask, but I find it really interesting where you can just start to understand what people are interested in. So again, you have a little bit of a limited search here. At some point, it's going to cap you. Here we go. So once you register, you get 3 free searches a day, but this will really get you started. So all sorts of different things in here that you can take a look at. When you have your free trial, you also get some search volume in here as well. So those are 2 tools I like to use or would recommend you use to kind of explore a little bit. Think about a more future-proof, or at least as much as that is possible, a strategy regarding your organic search. Then, of course, there's the tools that people tend to be a little bit more familiar with, so things like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and Moz. Each of these have kind of a freemium version that you can use. I tried to highlight the specific tools here that you have access to in a free version. Here is one example. You can do kind of a limited site audit. You can track ongoing positions, but one thing that I like is their Keyword Magic tool. Now, if you go to Keyword Overview, this is going to start limiting you. I think you can only do 1 keyword at a time. But if you go to Keyword Magic tool and you go in here and I type in brand strategy, you're going to see it's starting to give me other words here that are related to that. When you see volume, make sure you hover over these different column headers because they'll explain what everything is. But you can start to see what other words are related, how high volume they have, how difficult they are. Again, it's a limited amount, but you still get some pretty good information. So just keep exploring as you keep clicking on these different things. It's going to give you more and more information. So that's something that I would recommend. So you can see all the detailed information about that. So there's quite a bit in here for free. SEMrush tends to be my go-to tool, but this is not sponsored or anything like that. I like how robust it is. It could be a little bit overwhelming though if you're not too used to it. Ahrefs, I would say, is better served for ongoing tracking. So some of that is possible in SEMrush, but you can get a sense of what's going on here. So site audits and things like that. So don't pay too much attention to my keywords and everything here. I'm probably the cobbler who can't make his own shoes here, but you can see there's a lot of information in here that you can start getting, and this is going to be tracking on an ongoing basis. So you can start to see backlinks, you can see what keywords you are ranking for, and a lot of information about that. Highly useful tool. And then lastly, there's Moz, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. So in this case, you get a limited amount of searches as well. I think maybe if you create an account, you get a few more. But here we go, 3 searches per day. It's going to start giving you information about the keywords. So related suggestions, how difficult words are, volume, things like that. So you can start to get a little bit more quantitative at this point. So all in all, really you want to find a process that works well for you, but I really encourage people to start first thinking about what are people actually searching for, right? I used brand strategy as the example, but maybe that's not actually the words people are using when they're searching for the solution that you offer. So whether it's a product or service, try to think solutions oriented and what problem people are trying to solve. Start in Google to explore a little bit and then move your way down the line. And then for ongoing tracking, some of these tools that I mentioned here do offer that for free. And then also keep in mind there is Google Search Console. So I didn't talk about that a whole lot here because it's not as research focused, but those things and keeping an eye on it will help you with optimization. So in another session, I certainly can tackle the actual process for optimizing things, but these will help you with your research and keeping an eye on how you're tracking in organic search. Thanks so much. If you have another question, feel free to submit it at searchlikeyoummeanit.com.